This video is sponsored by Cake Wallet, the easiest open source wallet to store Bitcoin, Monero, and Litecoin securely on mobile and desktop devices. When buying, selling, and exchanging crypto or trading for gift cards, Cake Wallet ensures privacy and security, giving you the keys to your coins. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Randi Hipper Show. I'm your host, and I'm here to talk about the one and only Eleanor Terrett. I hope you guys are doing well today. I hope you guys are also checking out our sponsors as you guys come in, eToro and Cake Wallet. Make sure you guys check them out. Links are in the live chat as well as the description. The deposit for eToro is only $10, guys. Super cheap. And also, make sure you guys are smashing these likes, sharing the stream out, subscribing to the channel, because people need to know about Eleanor. She's amazing. She's a producer at Fox Business, has been taking over the crypto space in terms of news and being one of the most trusted voices, I feel, in crypto, which we really don't have many of those. So like I said, I have a lot of respect for Eleanor. And Eleanor, I'm so happy to have you. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm always happy to get back on the grind and do amazing interviews like this because you're just, again, a really trusted voice. You're one of the few females in this space as well. And I want to learn more about you because all the time I see you tweeting about the news. I see you talking on podcasts about the news, but I want to learn more about you. So let's do a little bit of a rewind to high school Eleanor. What were you up to, and what did you think where did you think your life was going to take you?
High school Eleanor. Wow, that was a totally different person, I feel.
Isn't it?
And I guess it wasn't all that long ago. I guess it was in high school about 12 or 13 years ago. But if you'd have told me then what I would be doing now, I would have said, what? Nope. Doesn't comprehend. I didn't know anything about crypto. I didn't know what crypto was back in high school. But disclaimer, I think I'm a little bit older than you. I graduated high school in 2011. So yes, I always knew I wanted to do something in communications because I kind of grew up in a journalism family. My father's a reporter. My mom is a former traffic reporter. They actually met at the BBC when my mom was doing traffic news. My dad was a DJ. So I've always been around the industry and broadcast. My dad used to bring me to work with him when I was little. So always liked it. And then in high school, I've always loved writing. I've always loved communicating. I love talking with people. And so I figured, what's the best way? How can I build my skills and make a career out of them? And at the time, public relations, going into PR, working at big PR firms was sort of the done thing. It was kind of like the hot thing of the moment, right? Like all my girlfriends were going to school for communications with a concentration in PR. So I was like, all right, well, I think I can qualify for that. Let me do that. And so when I went to James Madison University in Virginia, I went in with a communications umbrella degree and didn't have a specific field in which I wanted to pursue as a freshman, but knew that PR would eventually probably be the path I wanted to take. Fast forward maybe a year or two. Believe it or not, I didn't get the grades to stay in the communication school. So,
Really?
college was, and I have never talked about this before, college was a little bit of, it was a weird time for me. And I just was very indecisive. I wasn't sure whether I really wanted to pursue PR, and my grades weren't great as a result, I think, because I just wasn't passionate about what I was doing, and I was a little bit confused as to my future. So, I was a cheerleader in college. I was in a sorority, so I was definitely taking my extracurriculars a little bit more seriously than my education at the time. So I'd say it was around my junior year when I had a complete change of heart and said to myself, okay, I'm going to take a semester off. I'm going to go home and just kind of reevaluate and just see if there's anything I can come up with that, maybe it's completely different than communications, but let me just give it a thought before I completely exit this major. So I did. I went home, and at the time, my dad's a reporter. As I mentioned earlier, he was a correspondent for Al Jazeera America at the time, and they were based in New York at the New Yorker Hotel, which is down on 34th. So he said, they're looking for production assistants. Would you like to come in and try producing? And I said, yeah, why not? I'm home, nothing to do. And long story short, I was given the weekend PA job, production assistant job. So I was in charge of cutting video, running scripts to the anchors, and was in a newsroom every weekend. And wow. I loved it. I found something that I totally fell in love with. I'd been in studios before. I just kind of felt at home there. And I love the people. I love the vibe. So when I graduated, I thought, okay, this is something I want to stick with. And the first company I applied to was Fox. And Fox News was the the company I thought I was applying for, I had no idea what Fox Business was and if Fox Business was even like connected to the news channel. I just knew that Fox News was the place I wanted to be. So when HR called me and they said, well, we would like you to come in and interview for a green room producer position, I thought, okay, first of all, what's that? Second of all, what's Fox Business? A green room producer is someone who is basically in charge of the green room, right? So you bring guests to hair and makeup.
Yeah.
It's similar to what I did at Al Jazeera, run scripts for anchors. You kind of just you man the green room and have make sure there's a friendly face for the guests to see when they come in. And at the time, that was 2016, so it was before COVID, very much before COVID, and it was the election. It was the Trump-Clinton election. So it was an exciting time. I got to meet some very cool people. I got to hold the Super Bowl trophy when Bob Kraft came in after their Super Bowl win. I guess that was 2016, 2017. So that was great. And
That's amazing.
yeah, so I really started in production, and it wasn't until recently that I started working with Charlie Gasparino, who is our business correspondent here at Fox Business. If you take a position with him, he's a very much a mentor. So he's ex Wall Street Journal, CNBC. He's been at Fox Business for a number of years. He's written like 6 books. He's just the epitome of journalist, right? So he's been my mentor for 2 years, and with that, I'm his producer, so I produce his hits on the air. I help him with research. He's actually writing a new book right now that I'm his research assistant on.
That's amazing.
I get a lot of liberty on the side to do this sort of, I call my side hustle, which is crypto reporting, and really just found a niche that I love. And as you know, Randy, it's just, it's such an exciting space. There's always something to talk about. And it's just been a really interesting, a little unconventional 7 years of my life at Fox. So it's great.
Wow. So you right off the bat were in these big studios. And so you went to Virginia for college, right? Is that where you grew up, or you grew up here?
No. So I grew up in the UK, actually. And I say grew up, I spent the first 9 years of my life in the UK. I'm a British citizen. So is my family. We're all British citizens. And the reason we moved over here was because my dad was with the BBC at the time. He was supposed to do a 1-year position here in New York City. So we chose a place in New Jersey to live for what would end up being 21 years. My parents have been there for 21 years. I live in the same town, just I have my own apartment, and it's a commuter town. So, I'm 40 minutes from New York City. So I've been very much between New Jersey, New York, and Virginia, where I went to school, since moving here. So it's great. I love New York City. I feel so blessed to work here. It's kind of, gross and snowy and cold outside right now, but it's always, and you kind of forget when you're coming here every day and you're so used to the landmarks and you're used to sort of the pace of the city. It's easy to forget like how many people would kill to work here, and how many people look up to New York City as like it is really the concrete jungle where dreams are made of, right? And I appreciate it so much, but it's easy to kind of get lost in that everyday grind, as it were.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because once you leave New York and you go somewhere like even Miami or somewhere in Florida or Texas, everything's so slow. And you're like, where are the noises? Where's the beeping? Where's the honking? Where are the people yelling at each other? It's just freaking weird. Where are the rats running across Times Square? It's just really odd. And those things are huge. Anyway, it's really exciting that you really are kind of well versed in everything you do. And coming here at 9 years old, I mean, it must have been intimidating as a 9-year-old to kind of like restart your life in one way or another. Did you find it challenging at all, or you were just kind of cool with it?
Personally, I didn't. And I think you're right. It can be a very challenging time, especially that's sort of the tail end of grades of elementary school. You're kind of, it's right before middle school. So I think a lot of kids at that time find it the transition period, just staying in one country with it itself is difficult, but moving countries can obviously make it more difficult. I was very lucky, in my opinion. We landed at a great school. I made friends pretty quickly. People thought I was cool because I was the British girl, right? I had a cool accent, and people wanted to be my friend. So I found it an easy transition, maybe easier than some others might. But
that's good.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't hard at all. But it was definitely. There's not too many cultural differences at the end of the day between the UK and the US. Obviously, it's an English speaking country, so that was never a problem. But there were just little nuanced things like the food. I'm a huge fan of English chocolate, British chocolate. So Dairy Milk and Galaxy are my favorite things. I came here and they said, "Oh, here, have a Hershey's bar," and I almost threw up. I thought it was the most disgusting thing I ever.
Really? Is it that bad?
So, Yeah, I'm not a
Whoa.
Hershey's girl.
My heart is broken right now. What else is out there that I don't
Sorry.
even know of?
Yeah, if you haven't been to the UK, they have some very, very great chocolate candy. And then, we do a pretty mean curry as well.
Mm.
Fish and chips, always good.
Yes, yes. Well, I think like New York is you're lucky you at least moved here, so that way there's so many diverse types of food. Like anything you want, you'll be able to find, but it's always like it's never hits like home. And I feel like that's a big transition. And then going into high school, so you had no idea you were gonna go into communications at all. Did you have any other interests? Were you just kind of like getting by and doing your thing?
Kind of just getting by. I was a competitive gymnast for a number of years, and
That's
then
insane.
once I got too old for that, I switched to cheerleading. And I say too old, once my body was like, okay, I'm not gonna be like flipping through the air, doing crazy stuff, like, many multiple hours a day. I actually do have schoolwork to do. So, and actually, it's interesting. When I was living in the UK, I guess I was around 7 years old. I was at a club that it was scouted sometimes by other, bigger clubs who actually worked with girls going onto the national team. So at one point I was actually not scouted, but there was a conversation that happened between my parents and my coaches where they said Ellie can either stay here and she can kind of, continue her gymnastics recreationally, or she can go to this other gym where it'll be taken a lot more seriously and she could be on a track to go to the national team one day. And then obviously the national team leads to the Olympics. And so when I was
Yeah.
little, I was very much convinced that I was going to be an Olympic gymnast. And obviously I ended up taking the more recreational path because that would have meant homeschooling and just kind of giving up my life as I knew it. So and then obviously moving here was a little bit different. The competitive gymnastics in the UK and the US, just different nuances to it. So I loved it. It was a great thing to do in middle school. In high school, I joined the cheerleading team, and that was kind of my like life, I guess. And having my friends, but I always knew I loved writing. I was a very avid reader from a young age. I loved reading, anything from Harry Potter to, I don't know, like crime thrillers my mom was reading. Like I loved stories, and I always knew that storytelling would be part of my future. So I guess in a way it is now, on a different scale, but yeah, I always had that affinity for writing and reading and communicating.
Speaking of communications and media, I want to talk about like as you were growing up, right? How media changed because I even remember when I was younger, everybody had Cosmos like mailed to their house and all of these different like People magazine, all of these different magazines. Were you interested in the magazines or were you more like kind of staying online for your news and how do you think media evolved?
Yeah, media's evolved a great deal since I was in high school. I mean, I I was having this conversation earlier with someone. If you look at Twitter today, Twitter is literally, and you know this, it's a live news wire, right? It's
Yep.
it's up to the minute, up to speed. You can get pretty much the same level of information you'd get from like the Dow Jones news wires or Reuters news wires on Twitter. But the caveat of that is that you have to verify it because there can be flukes, as we saw with the SEC last week. But just the sheer transfer of information from cable news to Twitter to digital places, that's been really clear, since I was in high school. I didn't have a Twitter. I don't think I even made a Twitter account until like 2015. I mean, I was sort of
Wow.
late to the Twitter grind. I was very much a Facebook person. I started off with MySpace, then went to Facebook.
MySpace.
Yeah, I know. Like, I can't even believe that was a thing. I was never really a Tumblr person. I haven't really
Mm-mm.
gotten into TikTok either. I have TikTok just to, when people send me videos, I can look at it, but I don't post much on TikTok. It's something that I might look into more in 2024. But yeah, just in terms of media, it's been really interesting to see that switch because I mean, I grew up with a television in my house. I grew up with cable news, with my dad watching. He's a big consumer of news, whether it's American news, English news, um, foreign news, like the Middle East. He's up on that stuff. So he's always got some kind of news channel on, and that is scaling back now. Not so much in my household, but I know in younger generational Gen Zs, the generation that comes after that. I don't even know what it is, Gen A. Some of them don't even have TVs anymore, and a lot of them, if they have TVs, they're just connected to the internet, right? So you can pick and
Exactly.
choose your yeah, you pick and choose your mediums. once upon a time, even 20 years ago, people were really relying on the big three, right? Like ABC, CBS, and NBC, and then obviously you got your Foxes and your CNNs, but very much a shift away from one form of media to lots of lots of options, right? Like you can choose pretty much wherever you want to consume your news, you can do it. If you want to do it through TikTok, do it through TikTok. I don't know if it's the most sound advice, but yeah.
No. I love the memes about like the TikTok investors and all of those types of things because, I think a lot of what's gone right with social media is that, yeah, you're going to get on the minute news, but then it's deciphering what's real and what's not because someone can make a TikTok, have the fancy captions and all like the spooky music in the background, but can be spewing absolute lies and craziness. So
And
I think
even on X, like you got these accounts that have big followings that you assume because they have big followings, at least something that I would assume it's like you've amassed a good amount of followers, then you must be somewhat credible. I mean, you can bot out your Twitter account. You can buy followers, which I actually wasn't aware of until kind of recently. So that's deceiving as well. Like just because someone has a certain amount of followers or they have a name that people are talking about, then it doesn't necessarily mean they're the most credible source.
Oh, absolutely. People are buying subscribers, they buy comments, they buy listeners and spaces. There are people that, you could look at their post and it looks wrong where they have thousands of likes, hundreds of retweets, and no comments. Like there's just little things you can do to decipher that, but it's something you have to pick up over time. And then you have AI that's now commenting on people's posts like, hey, check out this coin or check out this link. And it's just somewhere where people just fall into like this rabbit hole. But deciphering the truth is really important. And that's why I'm thankful for X and community notes to kind of like step in there. And even when you were referring to big accounts, that's so true because what happened, what was it last week when the approval happened, the SEC X account got hacked. And that's somewhere where people look for that official information. I mean, the SEC wrote in a tweet themselves, the only place to get information about the SEC is the SEC, but that's no longer true because even their website has been like, I guess hijacked or they uploaded something, then deleted it. So it's almost like, what is the truth anymore? Where do we really find the truth and who can we really rely on? If not them, then what? So it's just,
exactly.
it's a
And
lot to handle.
it puts more pressure on journalists who should have that pressure, rightly so. If you're disseminating news, then you need to be reliable and you need to actually be credible. But I think it puts more of a pressure on us you got to kind of wade through the bullshit, so to speak, right?
Yeah,
you gotta
really.
you gotta find the actual what is real and what is not. And I think, like to your point, AI makes that a lot more difficult because it's generating these fake news articles. I don't know if you remember, I think it was the summer that an AI bot or account came up with this fake news that Gary Gensler was resigning.
Yes.
And everybody thought it was real.
Gosh.
And we reached out to the SEC and they're like, no, it's not real. And, and it turned out to be whether it was a bot that wrote it or an account that had taken it from, there was some like AI involved there. And yeah, that's scary because it's just going to keep getting bigger as AI grows.
Yeah, that's something that I worry about every day, which is why it's actually interesting. I don't even know if you heard that Fox is working on doing their own NFTs. So that way they can verify their media, which is another huge use case for cryptocurrency. Do you feel that we have a need for that where we need the kind of digital signature of like, okay, this is really from Fox?
Absolutely. No, I think that'll go a long way with credibility and it'll help us sift through what could potentially be just not any truth at all. So I think, yeah, I saw that headline come out a few weeks ago that we were actually like working on the blockchain and coming out with that idea for NFTs. I think that should be a standard for media going forward because then at least, you've got, even if the report is wrong, then at least like Fox can be the one that says, okay, well, we got this wrong, as opposed to like, well, we got it from this other source that got it from this other source, blah, 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 blah. Like at least you take responsibility and you take credibility when you've got a stamp to your name, right?
Absolutely. And then you have, all the work that really goes into creating the content that we need verified. And you've been really part of creating the content that goes on our TV screens every day. So how old were you when you first entered a studio and got your first producing job?
So I was, hang on, when did I graduate college? When I was 23. So I guess my first foray, I've been in TV studios with my dad and stuff since I was a young girl, but
Yeah.
my first job, my first age would have been the Al Jazeera producing position. So that would have made me 21.
Wow, that's super young. That's like around where I'm at now. So, what was it like to really, okay, sit down, understand your position, and then kind of take on this workload where you're not in school anymore? And a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I'm in school. I'm used to studying and taking notes and getting my homework done. But it's different when you're in the field. So, how was that transition for you?
Yeah, I think I was always a hard worker, and I think I've always prided myself on my work ethic. So one thing that I think helped me with my Fox application was when I was working for Al Jazeera doing that weekend position, I was actually driving from Virginia to New York on Fridays and Mondays back, back each way to have that job. Like I could have turned that job down. I could have said, no, I'm in school. I live 5 hours away and I'm just not going to be able to make it work. But I was passionate about it and I wanted to make it happen. So, I put a million miles on my car every week, but it was worth it because not only did I get the experience, but I also got the, I guess, credibility where it's like, okay, she's serious about this. She's not just some college grad who's a communications, she wants to do a job in communications and she's just landed in news and this is kind of like the path she's choosing that she's not really serious about. And I was always very aware of going into the place that my dad worked, Al Jazeera at the time, and I never wanted to be viewed as like the nepotism baby, the nepo baby, I used to call
Yeah.
them. Like like she's only here because her dad is here, and she's benefiting from that. But I was always very wary of what people might think about that, and because in this industry especially, it is kind of common, or it was common. I'm not sure if it's really like that much anymore, but there used to be, back in the day, it's like entire families would be working for one media company. And it is very much like who you know, not what you know business. So I always wanted to
Exactly.
prove myself in that way. And yeah, I mean, I think once you hit the real world, it's like you have to find something that you like doing because at school, like we're all forced to do homework and we're all forced to do exams, and we're kind of just existing to get by so we can get to this thing that we call life outside of college, right? And then you get to it and it's like, well, this is the rest of my life, and you have to love what you do, because if you don't, then you're going to be stuck not enjoying your life every day. And I feel preachy when I say this, but I do feel like I'm not working when I'm doing the work that I'm doing, because I enjoy it, because it's something I'm passionate about, and it's something I understand. Like I think a lot of people go into jobs after college that pay the bills, but they're not necessarily things they're passionate about or things they necessarily like understand. And crypto it's been a journey for me for the education side of it, right? I took a blockchain course, and that was just sort of the tip of the iceberg. I'm still learning. I think we're all still learning. I said in a tweet earlier today, I want 2024 to be the year where I still obviously cover regulations and the space in the lens of the SEC and regulation and the courts and all that kind of stuff. But I also want to learn more about NFTs. I want to learn more about Web3, because I was on a space a few weeks ago, and just the passion surrounding these projects is incredible. And there's real world use cases for these things that I think aren't getting attention. So for myself, I just kind of want to learn and see what these other people are seeing.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm so bullish on you learning about this because how did you even like hear about Bitcoin? Like where let's go there. How did you hear about this? Because you're working at Fox, very tradfi, stocks, all this type of jazz. How did you find out about Bitcoin?
Well, it's funny. So before I took the position with Charlie, I was the producer down at the New York Stock Exchange. So Fox Business used to have
Oh,
a booth on the floor where it was me and a reporter, and we would sit there every day and report from the floor of the stock exchange, doing cut-ins on the various shows on the network, saying, this is what's happening on the floor. If there was significant market moves, or if there was like Fed Day or Jobs Day, and there was interest in those things on the floor. And usually there were, like, Fed Day was huge. All the traders would look up at the board, and like the numbers come out at 2 o'clock, and it's like, oh my god, what's the market going to do? And I think when I was there, the Dow had hit, I think its record was 28,000, and I think we're up at like 34 now, I think, is the record. And it was a very bullish time. It was right before the pandemic started, so markets were great. Trump was still in power, and markets were just like, they kind of just like took off under Trump. So we
oh
kept
yeah.
hitting these brand new highs, and it was such an exciting time to be down there. But I remember traders starting to talk about cryptocurrency and starting to mention Bitcoin, and I was like, like, okay, that's interesting. At the time, I really wanted to. So I've always, since coming to Fox, I've wanted to be on air. That's kind of been my like my passion, I guess. It's something I've been striving to do, and hopefully one day I'll be able to do it with the cryptocurrency stuff. But at the time, I was focusing more on market moves and how I could shape my future to be the New York Stock Exchange reporter for Fox Business. So I wasn't focusing too much on those outside conversations about crypto. It was more what the markets were doing. But that was really the first time I kind of heard the term. I'd say that was around like 2018, 2019. And as we now know, that was sort of when the ICO boom was happening. And after that, it kind of went quiet for a little bit. And then I really didn't pick up on crypto that much until 2021, when Charlie and I were approached about the Ripple case. And we did a piece on it. We dug into it, looked at who was involved, everything that happened. And then from there, it kind of just fell into place. So it was very much sort of, I'd say, being in the right place at the right time, and sort of just chance as well. Because had we never gotten that DM from John Deaton, who's the Amici for the XRP holders in the Ripple case, potentially Amici in the Coinbase case as well, we might have missed it, and then I would have missed out on this whole crazy ride I've been on for 2 years.
I mean, when you're getting these DMs about cryptocurrency and all of these huge headlines, and it's almost like, the TradFi media is forced to recognize cryptocurrency, but did the people that surrounded you have a good idea about cryptocurrency? Did they like cryptocurrency, or was it something that was like, all right, we have to report on it, it's here?
Yeah, it was very much sort of, we have to report on it, it's here, in terms of prices, right? So you would see the shows putting up hot boards. Those are the charts, I guess, not stock charts, but boards of the prices of Bitcoin, of Ethereum, and then sometimes we show Litecoin as well.
Yes.
We show XRP these days as well. But yeah, it was very much from a sort of lens of, this is an alternative way of investing your money. And, if you put $10 into Bitcoin 10 years ago, this is how much you would have now, kind of thing. So very much from an investor standpoint, not as much as, this technology, this blockchain technology. I think a lot of people have trouble discerning or differentiating crypto and blockchain. And
Yes.
and I think, blockchain technology has such a huge potential. I think a lot of people agree on that, but they don't necessarily know about it and know about the amazing use cases that it could be used for. And crypto is sort of the thing that comes with it, that people think they can make some money on it. And so it was very much just sort of seen through that lens of an alternate investment that was sort of a niche area of the market that some investors cared about and some didn't. And it really wasn't until the Bitcoin spot ETF approval that changed. And it's been really cool to see, because I do feel like, with Charlie, we've been trying to up the crypto coverage. Obviously, we do a lot of writing on the side, but bringing that coverage to the network on shows is a sort of a different story, because you have to pitch it in a way that's, it's not, because you never want to like shill, I guess, right? You never want to, like, if you think you have a cool project or you have a cool CEO of a company on, you never want to like put them on and say, you always want to have them on for more of a reason than just their product. Like, how would TradFi resonate with this, or where is this going to go in a couple of years, that you might see the integration with TradFi, because we have very much an elder audience. I think, between us, CNBC and Bloomberg, we have sort of the older, I'd say, boomers, Gen Xers, right?
I love that description, the elder audience. Like, that is like stellar.
Yeah, I mean, we might have some Gen Zers and maybe some millennials as well, but I think for the most part, we try and keep our content in line with with like the interests of our audience. And now that Bitcoin has been integrated into ETFs, and that's something that traditional financial people can understand, like, that's like bread and butter to them. If Bitcoin's involved, then they're gonna see that and say, oh, like, then this is sort of a legitimized asset. We had this crazy idea that it was just a total scam, and people just invested their money and then got completely screwed in the markets, and there's absolutely no real world use case to it at all, until the ETFs were approved. And you've got people like Larry Fink, who's now a total Bitcoin bull. I mean, I think there's no way of putting it other than that. We had him on with Charlie a couple of weeks ago, and he was raving about the use case for Bitcoin and its future potential. So you've really had a change of heart. And I'd say I've been here to witness that over the last 2 years. And it's been really cool from not just the I guess, institutional investor standpoint, but also a Fox audience standpoint, Fox management standpoint. People really are coming to us and saying, what's the latest on crypto? Like, what's going on is there going to be an Ethereum spot ETF? So the interest has peaked. And I think we can credit that with the Bitcoin spots.
And why do you think, because we've had futures, for a while, why do you think like the Bitcoin spot ETF gives so much validity to Bitcoin? Why do you think a lot of people didn't just look into Bitcoin before and kind of see the purpose of it and like it then rather than the ETF?
So I think with futures, it's much more of it's more difficult to invest in because you have to be an accredited investor, what they call an accredited investor, which means you have to make a certain amount of money, have to have a certain net worth to be considered like sophisticated enough to put your money into this product, right? Which I think is
Bonkers.
Ridiculous because
Horrible.
because who are you to tell me where I can put my money, right? So, but nonetheless, that has been the way it's been, and I think with spot, it's a lot more open to retail involvement. I can go to my broker, or you can go to your broker and say, I saw BlackRock got a Bitcoin spot ETF approved. I want to buy X amount of shares of IBIT, and then all of a sudden you're exposed to Bitcoin, but you're exposed in a different way, maybe a more regulated and safer way than you might be by buying it through like an unregulated exchange. So I think there's more confidence there. There's more of a feeling that, okay, this is something that's been regulated which is kind of funny, right? Regulated by the government, because that was the entire like point of crypto was so there was no government regulation of sense. But I think the industry's come to the conclusion that there needs to be some regulation for this to be viable at all, because obviously it can't just be the Wild West. We can't just have these crypto exchanges and tokens and ICOs just kind of running rampant where there frankly there's a risk of investor losses, right? If there's a little bit of regulation, and who knows if we'll see that go to the SEC or maybe the CFTC, there's got to be something there. So definitely it's been wild seeing that whole thing play out, not just in Congress, but also the courts. Crypto is the conversation. It's become such a big conversation, not just in the news, in the court, in Congress, in the White House. It's really cool.
Oh, absolutely. And you're in the middle of all the action, and you're seeing actors like SBF in person in court. What's that like to see all these headlines and actually really be front and center a part of it?
It's really cool. I would say the SBF trial was a little surreal because it was like this guy, and I know a lot of reporters had actually sat down with SBF in his heyday. It had phone calls with him, like Tiffany Fong, I think, went to his house in California and sat down with him when he was on house arrest. So from my perspective, like I'd done some writing about FTX and SBF, but never to the point of like actually really diving in deep to him. And I think he was just this guy that was plastered all over headlines for several months after FTX fell, right? He was on, the cover of the New York Post, which I have that pinned up on my desk, and
that's hilarious.
Incredible headline, Harry Plotter. That will stay there until I exit that desk. And you just see this guy, and he's being portrayed in the media as mini Madoff, and you finally get to court a year later, and you sit 10 feet behind this guy, and it's like, wow, like this guy is the guy who perpetrated maybe the worst fraud in the history of the United States. He's just your average looking guy. And it's funny because he was in a suit and tie, he had a haircut, so he actually looked quite different than he did on the covers of the Post and all the other outlets. But it was surreal sitting that close to him and actually watching this guy's life fall apart right in front of your eyes. This guy who had everything once upon a time, the cars, well, not the cars, he drove a Toyota, but he had the condos, he had the money, he had pretty much everything that you could want at the age of 30. Yeah, power, influence, yes. Right? We're not even getting into that part where he literally like was given the green light to go and sit down with Gary Gensler himself, not just once, but I think twice. And then, holding meetings with all these Congress people. I mean, that really is a good example of it's not what you know, is who you know, right?
Oh,
and it turned out that this guy really just wasn't, I say wasn't great. He was dreadful at risk management. And, you could, that's putting it nicely. You could say like he just was really dumb when it came to risk management, or you could say that like he was actually like an evil mastermind and was actually embezzling money with intent. So that whole thing was it was really cool. I'm so glad that the trial actually took place in New York City. So I just really had to travel down on the subway a few blocks to go see it. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, at least that's like the one good thing about New York. Like you're always in the drama because so many things are happening here. What other court cases have you sat in and watched? And what is like the environment? What's the energy like in these courtrooms?
Well, I'll be honest, SBF was my first sit-in trial. I've listened
Oh,
to plenty on the
whoa.
phone, and what I did on Wednesday, I wasn't able to be in court, but I did the dial-in, and I was live tweeting on like via phone. But SBF was my first like in-person courtroom experience, and I'm a
No
huge true
way.
crime fan, so I watch Law and Order and Criminal Minds. So I'm very like in my mind, I have always had a good picture of what a courtroom looks like, and just being in it was completely different. And
Wow.
I think for me, like it was really cool being in the actual like the room where it was all happening, because you had these overflow rooms as well where the media could go, and like you were watching the everything play out on a screen in front of you. But being in the courtroom itself, they were strict. I mean, you couldn't have coffee, you couldn't chew gum, you weren't allowed to talk when the judge was on the bench. You could talk when the judge was in chambers, but
That makes sense.
just all these like little nuances that like you see on TV shows, like the lawyers say sidebar judge, and they go up to the judge's bench, and they have this discussion, and they turn on white noise so the audience and the defendant can't hear what's going on. So there's all these
Really?
little cool things, yeah, like things that you wouldn't even
Wow.
think are like maybe just made up for TV or something, and they're not. No, they actually happen. So yeah, it was my first, hopefully not my last. I'd like to we'll see what happens with Coinbase. I didn't even go to the Ripple. I didn't go to the Ripple hearings, but yeah, it's definitely a cool environment. Looking forward to hopefully more. And if Coinbase somehow pulls off this motion to dismiss, that would be excellent. But if they don't, it will go to discovery, and it will probably play out like Ripple did. 18 months to 2 years of litigation. So I'll be hopefully present for those.
Yeah, I think this whole Coinbase SEC case is insane. And, the SEC is taking major L's lately. It's just, it seems that they want the courts to make the laws instead of them helping curate the laws. And I just really don't understand why that is. Do you feel the same? Do you feel like, this is just kind of like stalling to figure out what the real rules are? I'm just a little confused.
Yeah, well, I think traditionally Congress makes the laws, right? Congress makes the laws, the courts and the agencies carry out the law. But in this case, I mean, for the last 90 years, the US market regulatory system has hinged on the 1933, 1934 Securities Act and the 1946 Howey test. Now, the Howey test was introduced to regulate orange grove investments, right? I mean, I don't know if you can invest in orange groves today. Maybe you can. They're definitely securities if you can. But it was basically, that was 1946, and you bring it forward to 2024, 90 years later, we've got all this incredible technology that actually doesn't fit into the parameters of the Howey test, of the SEC's regulation requirements, right? You've got these crypto companies that say it's all very well for Gary Gensler to say come in and register, but we can't register our blockchain technology because it's so nuanced. It's like you ask us questions on these forums to fill in, and they don't even apply to us because the technology is just so vastly different than what would be for a stock or a bond. So I think people say, oh, the SEC has got all the power it needs to regulate crypto, and there doesn't need to be new rules. But I think there needs to be a new framework for
Yes.
a modern technology that doesn't fit into the traditional uh, uh, definition of an investment, right? So I think it's very much it's like a wait and see game, because Congress is obviously very busy right now. They've got the 2024 election coming out. That's all we're going to be focusing on. There are crypto bills in both the House and the Senate that I think have real teeth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so if we get moving on those, then I think there'll be some more. There'll obviously be like a framework, and then the SEC can work with that. But what's happening right now is the SEC and Gary Gensler firmly believe that digital asset tokens and transactions are securities. The trouble is Congress hasn't ruled on that, right? They haven't
No.
said that is the case. So the SEC is technically overstepping its jurisdiction or its mandate when it tries to regulate the entire crypto system into making them securities. So it is very much a balancing act between Congress and between the regulating agencies. And then now we've got the courts involved to kind of chivvy things along a little bit. But someone said on the spaces this morning, like, it's not viable for these crypto companies to keep having to shell out hundreds of millions of dollars to take the government to court to basically fight for their right to exist, right? Like, you can do it.
Exactly.
Ripple did it. Coinbase is doing it. Binance is going to have to do it. Like, but these are companies that, you know, they're massive, massive entities with a lot of money, so they can do it. But a lot of these smaller crypto players are going to be screwed in the long term because they can't afford to fight that fight in court. So something needs to change.
That's like library, what
Yep,
they went through.
exactly.
And it frustrates me because there's like, oh yeah, you could register, you should have registered, but like, how do you do that? Because there are no rules. And it's just like kind of this imaginary, like kind of agency and laws that really don't exist. And the regulation by enforcement approach really doesn't work, especially in a landscape like Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, where it's decentralized. So they can't say no self-custody. They can't say you can't transact in crypto. It's physically impossible to stop it. And I want to know your opinion on the overall crypto space. Like, set aside the laws, set aside the SEC and all the news drama. What's your opinion on cryptocurrency, and where do you see this going?
Well, I have to echo Larry Fink when I say I think cryptocurrency is definitely here to stay. I think Bitcoin is certainly here to stay. A lot of these altcoins, I mean, I feel like I see a new altcoin coming out every day, right? Like there's ones with like dogs in hats and dogs holding beers, and then like other.
It's crazy.
I've been pitched so many cat related projects for me to like, because I love cats, and anybody who follows my Twitter feed knows I'm a cat lady. But you know, I think in terms of how we move forward as an industry, like there's got to be some sort of like responsibility taken by people, and then it's not just like a joke, right? To invest in a random meme coin that you think is funny at the time, and potentially if enough investors get involved and there are bad actors involved in it as well, then people could lose money. I think there just needs to be, and I think the Bitcoin spot approval will help with the maturity of the industry. I think the industry had a maturation problem for a while, kind of like a lot of experimentation going on, which is great. Obviously, every new industry needs that, but
yeah.
But now it's time to really kind of like to build, to get down and actually like, establish the industry for, it's a $1.7 trillion industry. It's not peanuts. And I think we heard that too in the Coinbase hearing on Wednesday. The SEC is trying to say that, oh, the industry is negligent. It's never going to amount to anything. It's small. It's not very influential. Like crypto thinks it's bigger than it is, essentially. And I counter that with the SEC's load of cases that it's brought against crypto since Gary Gensler became chair. He's brought well over 50 enforcement cases for crypto alone. They just asked for $72 million extra in their budget to add more staff to essentially, to beef up that crypto and cybersecurity department, which they need, the cybersecurity department part. So the SEC's actions are not matching up with their words. So I think, crypto is obviously an influential space. I think it has massive potential to grow. Obviously, and I've only been in it for 2 years, but people who have been in it for a lot longer, they keep saying we're still early. So
oh, absolutely.
We're still early. So yeah, I mean, I think the potential is really there. I'm not great with sort of price predictions and
don't
like
do that
analysis.
No,
that's not really my field of expertise. But between the industry maturing, the sort of the integration into TradFi now, and just where we go with legislation and hopefully finally getting some kind of clarity surrounding this industry, I think that will only serve to boost it even further.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, you don't have to get into price predictions. Don't even go that route. Like, you like I don't go that route either, because like, yeah, you could look at a chart and be like, these are levels like you're watching out for, but to give a prediction is silly because no one knows what anything's going to do. Like, no one has like this like crystal ball what like, yeah, we're going to like 69 million by 2026. Like, we don't know all this stuff. And you do stay true to your word, which I enjoy, because there's not many people in the media that do that, and you're very consistent, which, dude, like, I respect consistency to the top degree, and your tweet after tweet, like, no matter what time it is, you're going off, and you do stick to your word when you say that you are a cat lady. How many cats do you have, and when was your first cat?
Okay, so buckle up, ladies and gents. So in my one-bedroom apartment in New Jersey, I currently have 5 cats.
Oh my God, Eleanor!
I'll couch that with the fact that 2 of them are foster kittens.
Oh, okay, that's cute.
I have 3 cats of my own, and then 2 kittens that I'm fostering. I'm very passionate about fostering kittens and cats, especially stray ones that we find outside, that were born outside and are struggling to find food. And I am part of a rescue group as well. So we do,
Oh,
we see some very sad situations where kittens are born outside and they're freezing, and also like, a big problem. You can get into like cats' rights. I'm about to get into cats' rights. As an owner, as a cat owner, it is the responsibility is on.
oh no. Did I lose Eleanor?
Issue is, oh, did you
Oh,
lose me?
I lost you for like a second. You're back now.
Okay. I bet Zoom was like, she's about to go off on a cat rant. Cut her off now. No, what I was saying is like, the stray cat problem is bad because people don't get their cats neutered.
Yeah.
So I'm very involved in, in rescuing, getting them neutered. I volunteer at a local shelter, but yeah, I love working with cats. And my first cat, I have to credit my ex-boyfriend with my cat love, because when we moved in together, we got a cat named Simba. He's a ginger cat. He's 2 years old. He's
Oh,
very feisty, and yeah, I kind of just started from there. And then the other two cats that I have, they're mine, are rescues. So yeah,
that's so
love
cute.
the cats. I think and I love the satisfaction that I get from knowing that the cats that come into my care were once on the street and struggling, and now they have full bellies, they're warm, and they're about to go to a good home. So that's kind of that's my pitch.
Oh, that's beautiful. Is there like a website for the rescue you work with that I could put in the chat?
Oh yeah, so it's Mount Pleasant Animal Shelter in East Hanover, New Jersey, and
Mount.
yeah, I think it's njshelter.org or njshelter.com.
Yeah, njshelter.org. I see it here on
Yeah,
Google. I'm going to throw it in
yeah.
the chat so people
Oh, thank
can
you so
help
much.
out.
Yeah, so yeah, all donations welcome. Like it's a nonprofit. It's a nonprofit center, obviously, and it's also a private shelter. So it's a non-kill, which is very
That's
key because
beautiful.
there are a lot of shelters in New York, especially that unfortunately euthanize. So yeah, we don't do that.
Oh man, I don't know. Like my heart breaks when I hear about that, and hopefully they accept crypto soon because I know a lot of people love to send donations in crypto. That's something you could possibly
Yes,
propose down the road. Any way to accept money, I feel like is worth it. You know what I mean? But
absolutely.
yeah, that's beautiful, and like you're just like a giving person. And I know like on this channel, like people in here like to rave. Do you like to rave? Like, what's your downtime stuff? Like, what do you do on the weekends? Like, you're like, all right, business hours are over. What are you up to?
So I'm very into yoga and I'm very into working out.
Yes.
So
Go off,
yes, hot
Eleanor.
yoga I love, and I'm very into my Peloton as well. This is not meant to be a Peloton plug, but I do
Kill
love a
it.
good Peloton ride. So I find that's really a good way to clear my head, a good way to burn calories. So if I'm not doing that, then I'm hanging with friends, or I'm trying to I'm trying to get more sort of like hobbies in 2024. Like I want to say get outside more, but it's so damn cold.
Right?
I got to come up with some more hobbies to do in
Yes.
2024. I think I'll make that a goal.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I've been hitting the gym consistently since November, and I'm telling you, I feel so different. And yoga is so fun too. When did you start doing yoga?
So I've been into yoga since I was a gymnast, so since high school.
That's
But I didn't really get
amazing.
into hot yoga until I don't know, like I'd say like mid-20s, and I just love it. And I think I like it so much because I still kind of have my flexibility from gymnastics a little bit. So like a lot of people go to hot yoga and they're like, oh, it's so hard. Like I can't. Like not only am I sweating so much, but I can't put myself in these pretzel-like positions. I'm like, I can still kind of do it. Like it still kind of gives me that sort of like, all right, I still got it. I'm turning
Yeah.
31 in February and I still got it.
You're amazing. You're killing it. Because I used to be a cheerleader in high school and I did gymnastics when I was really tiny too. So, like, I relate to you on so many levels where I was in cheer and I was like going off and I really enjoyed it. And then, like, COVID happened and I only had like 2 real years of high school and I just like had nothing to do anymore. And then I started, going to the gym because I was like, I need to do something with myself and exert some energy. I feel like it's also really good for the mental. Someone asked what your best yoga pose was.
My
Is
best
there?
yoga pose, I'd say crow. I'm really good at crow. That's where you balance on your elbows and you have your legs lifted up.
Oh my
I can like
gosh,
hold that thing I can hold crow for like a long time.
is that a
Um,
lot in your core?
it's in your core and also sort of in your I guess in your arms and like your shoulders because you're holding
Dude,
up your body
whoa.
weight. Yeah.
That's beautiful. You're killing the freaking game, Eleanor. I have so much respect for you. The
Thank
workout
you.
grind.
I
It's
will
really
also
something you have to
say,
balance. Go ahead. Yes.
oh, absolutely. No, I also say I have a New Year's resolution, which is I actually cut out alcohol. So I
Beautiful.
am, yeah, I just, you know what, it wasn't doing anything for my waistline. And I'm trying to lose weight. And it just, you talked about, you feel so much better from going to the gym, like combining cutting out alcohol with the working out. Just my mental clarity is just so much sharper, and I wouldn't be able to do any of the stuff I'm doing now, I think, if I continued like my habits, because I'm getting up super early. Like today, I was here at my desk at like 6:45, and because I was in anticipation of coming on with you today, and then I had a couple spaces before as well. But also just like just the ability for my body to just get up and go. I don't think I'd be able to do that if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now. So yeah, that's another little thing that 2024 is going to be good for is my health, and just cutting out things that I don't need anymore.
You're a great role model. Can I just say that to you? Can I give you all your
you.
flowers? Because you're a great role model, and you're so relevant, and you're just doing things that a lot of people feel like they shouldn't, like getting into the crypto space and just going after like the producing and getting that grind, starting your like crypto side hustle, which we're so early in this space. And I know you say like people keep saying we're still early, but it's so true. And just to have like reliable people, like I said, consistent people that are nice, that are genuine, it's very hard to find. So I very much appreciate you. How can people find you and keep up with everything you're doing? Because I want to make sure everyone follows you.
So my Twitter handle is at Eleanor Terrett, and I am the only one with a blue check mark. I do want to put that PSA out there, because apparently I have a lot of imposters. So if it's anyone without a check mark reaching out to you in your inbox, it's not me. But feel free to reach out to me in my inbox, because I often respond to people. And I'm on Instagram as ELL_KATE. And then in my bio on Twitter is my link to my Fox Business page, where they post all of my articles. So all my latest work is on there. But yeah, apart from that, just connect with me on Twitter.
Awesome. All right. So those links are all in the description of the video. I'm going to add the Instagram one, but L_Kate on Instagram. Make sure you guys check that out. Make sure you guys are following Eleanor, because she's killing the game. She's one of the most reliable sources out there for cryptocurrency updates and just news updates in general. She's getting after it. Thank you all for the super chats, the likes, the comments, the contributions to the stream. I appreciate every single one of you. I hope you guys, again, check out Eleanor, give her a follow, give her some love, comment zesty, something nice and positive under her post. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you guys click the like, subscribe to the channel, and share this stream out with friends so more people can learn about Eleanor and how amazing she is and how she's going to do some hot yoga this weekend. Have a great weekend, guys. Happy Friday. And as always, stay zesty. I'll see you guys 9:45 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday for the Daily Zest. Have a good weekend, guys. Peace.